Hello, my dear students. Good morning. We can discuss poverty line. Last day, we discussed the social exclusion and vulnerability. Who are vulnerable to poverty? We discussed. Then next we can discuss poverty line. So here, there is a concept of poverty line. A common method used to measure poverty is based on the income or consumption levels. So how can we measure the poverty line or find out the poverty line? On the common method we are using that, the income level and also the consumption levels. A person is considered poor if his or her income or consumption level falls below a given minimum level necessary to fulfill basic needs. So underline these points. What type of a person is considered as poor, or who is considered as poor? If his or her income or consumption level falls below a given minimum level necessary to fulfill basic needs. So a person, how much money he need to fulfill his basic needs, that is, he is not able to fulfill his basic needs, we can consider him as what? Poor. So what is necessary to satisfy basic needs is different at different times and in different countries. So what is the next point here? What is necessary to satisfy basic needs? Normally you are answering that food, shelter, clothing. Okay, but this what is necessary to, or the basic needs to satisfy the human needs, that is different at different times and in different countries. So poverty line may vary with the time and place. The basic needs to satisfy basic needs is different at different times and different countries. That is why poverty line also vary with the time and place. You know that in northern India, winter, severe cold, at that time what is the condition of Kerala? We need AC or fan too. At the same time, what is essential that time, that period or other places, they need a woolen blanket. See that? So poverty, that is, or the basic needs of people, that is different at different times in different countries. Many people died due to severe cold because lack of proper woolen clothes or other fire facilities. See that? So therefore, poverty line may vary with the time and place. Each country uses an imaginary line that is considered appropriate for its existing level of development and its accepted minimum social norms. So country using their own imaginary line. So we have, or India, we have our own poverty line and imaginary line we used to measure it. At the same time, other country, our neighboring countries, Pakistan or Sri Lanka, or next, this America, you can see that they have different, they used different poverty line. For example, a person not having a car in the United States may be considered poor. But what is the case of India? Owning of a car is still considered a luxury. See, that is the difference. In America, a person without car considered as poor, but in the case of India, we consider car as a symbol of luxury. So that is the difference. So here, while determining the poverty line in India, a minimum level of food requirements, clothing, footwear, fuel and light, educational and medical requirement, etc. are determined for subsistence. So this point you underline. When in India, when we determine the poverty line, so what are the things we are considering? A minimum level of food requirement, clothing, footwear, fuel, land light, educational and medical requirements. So in the previous session we discussed two stories. In rural case and urban case, there we know that there are no proper clothing facilities, there is no medical facilities, educational facilities. That two stories we discussed. So here in India, when determining the poverty line, we consider these things: a minimum level of food requirement, clothing, footwear, fuel, and light, educational and medical requirements. So for the existence. So these physical quantities are multiplied by their prices in rupees. So what we do? All these things we consider in rupees. And the present formula for food requirement while estimating the poverty line is based on the desired calorie requirement. So how much calorie we required, we need for existence. So first we find out it. Food items such as cereals, pulses, vegetable, milk, oil, sugar, etc. together provide these needed calories. So the calorie needs vary depending on age, sex, and the type of work that a person does. So the calorical requirement that is different on the basis of age, sex, and the type of work that a person does. You see that a small baby, it need a less calorie. And also you see that males and females, they also need a different calorical requirement. At the same time, the type of work that a person does. You know that a person engaged in construction work, so he need a more calorie than an office staff. Office staff, see that, or those who are in the office, he is sitting in a chair and doing the work or working in the computer. So he need a less calories. The thing is that the calorical requirement, it is vary or it depend upon age, sex, and the type of work that a person does. So the accepted average calorie requirement in India is 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per person per day in urban areas. You see the difference? Rural area, the person required 2400 calories per day. At the same time, in urban area, the person needed 2100 calories. How this difference happened? You see that people living in rural areas engage themselves in more physical work. Those who are engaging more physical work, they need more calories. So calorie requirements in rural areas are considered to be higher than in urban areas. Underline this point. So 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per person in urban areas. That's to underline. So the monetary expenditure, that means the money expenditure per person needed for buying these calorie requirements, that means food items in terms of food grains, is revised periodically taking into consideration the rise in prices. So here the money expenditure per person needed for buying these food items, that is revised periodically, because you know that when times over, prices of goods also increase. So it is revised periodically taking into consideration the rise in prices. So on the basis of these calculations, for the year 2011-12, the poverty line for a person was fixed at rupees 816 per month for the rural areas and rupees 1000 for the urban areas. You see the difference. When we discuss the caloric requirements, rural area, a person need more caloric requirement than the urban area. But you see that here, for this calorical requirements, when we turn this calorie requirement, when we turn into money, in rural area, a person needed 816 rupees per month and 1000 rupees for the urban area. How this increase happened in urban area? Because they need the less calorie than the rural area. The thing is that you see that despite less caloric requirement, the higher amount for urban areas has been fixed because of the high prices of many essential products in urban centers. You know that in rural area the things are producing, especially agricultural products, and it carried to where the urban areas. So when it reached to the urban areas, it's a price increase. Rural area, the things prices less than the urban areas. That is why here when this calorical requirement, when we turn into or when we change it as money, what happened? The urban area, the person needed 1,000 rupees per month. So here, in this way, in the year 2011-12, a family of 5 members living in rural areas and earning less than about rupees 4,080 per month will be below the poverty line. How this 4,080 you got? Because how many family having how many members here? 5 members. And per person needed in a month 816 into 5. You will get 4,080 per month. So what happens? If a person in a family earning less than about this 4,080 per month will be below the poverty line. A similar family in the urban areas would need a minimum of rupees 5,000 per month to meet their basic requirements. You see that the caloric requirement per month, no, that means the money for a person needed per month in urban area 1,000 rupees. So family having 5 members, they need 5,000 rupees per month to meet their basic requirements. So the poverty line is estimated periodically. That means every 5 years poverty line is estimated. How it estimated or how it calculated? By conducting sample surveys. And who conducted these sample surveys? National Sample Survey Organization, that is NSSO. So the National Sample Survey Organization conducted sample surveys periodically. That means after every 5 years. However, for making comparisons between developing countries, many international organizations like the World Bank use a uniform standard for the poverty line. Minimum availability of the equivalent of $1.90 per person per day. So here, according to the World Bank, the uniform standard of the poverty line created by the World Bank, what is that? $1.90 per person per day needed for fulfilling the basic requirement, and the people they are earning less than $1.90 in a day, less than in a day, that people they were considered as what? Poor. So here you consider, you know that here the poverty, international poverty line, that means $1.90 per person per day. And those who are not able to acquire or earn this amount, they are considered as what? Poor. So you clear that how is poverty line is estimated in India and what is the international poverty line. So what is National Sample Survey Organization, who conducted periodical surveys, periodical sample surveys to estimate poverty. So these you underline, and what is the uniform standard of poverty line? $1.90 per person per day. All these main points you have to underline. Read this area 2 or 3 times. Thank you. Have a nice day.